Alright, what I want to do here is walk us through creating the sketch of the third angle, 3-view orthographic projection of this object. Now this is the same object that we're going to use, that we're going to create the orthographic projections of in AutoCAD. But it's always a good idea before you draw something in AutoCAD to sketch what you're going to draw, just so you don't have to fight with both what you're visualizing and AutoCAD at the same time. So before we get started, let's talk about this object a little bit. I've decided that this face here is the front, and I've given myself a reminder with this little arrow right here. This thing is 5 inches long by 2.5 inches tall. Looking at it, we can see that we've got a good chance, in fact we can, communicate everything about this object using a front view, a top plan view, so a front elevation, which is just the elevation of this view of this side here, a top plan, which means looking straight down. If we had this object right in front of us, we would be looking straight down, and we're just going to draw a plan view. And then we can fill in the details with a front elevation, so an elevation looking from this direction. So let's talk for just a minute. Now I'm just using plain engineering paper. For a sketch it works. There are more formal drawing layouts that you could use if you're doing this more precisely. And since I'm just creating a sketch that will be my reference for AutoCAD, I'm not going to use a straight edge. I'm just going to draw along the grid lines. So I do need to make a couple of decisions here. I need to decide what my scale is going to be. And if we look, we can see that the smallest dimension on my drawing is 0.25, and that all of the rest of my drawings are nice multiples of 0.25. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let one square on my engineering paper equal 0.25 inches. Now, before I made that decision, I also did a quick check to make sure that I could fit a front, a side, and a top plan on here, and I can. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to start with the front, which, if we're doing third angle projection, remember, goes right down here. And before I draw anything really, I'm just going to double check my assertion that everything will fit by sketching in rough rectangles of the space I'm going to require for each of these views. And I'm going to do this very lightly because I'm going to end up erasing a lot of this. So my front is going to be 5 inches long, which on my scale is 20 squares, by 2.5 inches tall, which again on my scale is 10 squares. So that is the rectangle within which I will draw my front view. Now this is very light. You can still see it though, I think. Okay, I'm going to move my reference drawing out of the way. This is from your text. You've got it in your textbook so you can look at it while you're doing this. I'll bring it back as we need it. Now my top view, I'm going to give myself a couple of squares of space, and my top view is 3 inches wide. I get that from this dimension right here. So my plan view is going to be 3 inches wide by 5 inches long. So 3 is going to be 12. We'll go right here. And then the lateral dimension is exactly the same as for my front view. Okay. And now so this is my top. And now my side view, which I'm going to put right here. And its dimensions are set by the dimensions of the other two drawings. So this lateral dimension on my side view is the same as the vertical dimension on my top view. And this vertical dimension on my side view is the same as that vertical dimension on the front view. Okay, so now we're ready to get started on the front view. We've kind of got our window panes drawn. So now let's go ahead and start putting in edges that we would see looking at this object from the front. The first thing we notice is that we are going to see this edge all the way to the top and this edge all the way to the bottom. Or sorry, to the right side. The next thing we notice is that this thing is 1 inch. This extended part of my piece is, sorry, I'll scoot that over so you can see it. There we go. 1 inch thick. So that means I've got an edge at 1 inch. And now this vertical back piece is also 1 inch, so that means I've got a vertical edge at 1 inch. So we'll draw this, and we'll draw this. Those are my basic edges. And I'm going to pick up my eraser now, and I'm just going to erase these little these kind of window pane edges that I put in earlier. Those were really for construction. They weren't really edges. So there, I cleaned that up. Now, this little notch guy here, that's going to create another edge. And we can see that it's going to be, if I look in, what I'm going to see is an edge that is 1/4 of an inch from the back edge. So I'm going to sketch this in kind of lightly, because right now we can't place this edge right here. Well, we'll get to it, but we can't place it yet. Okay, that's about all we can do on the front view, so let's move to the top view. Now the top view is kind of interesting. Okay, let's start with the easy. This edge right here projects up from the front view, so we know that we've got a top edge right here. Okay. And this part here in the middle, these two lines represent edges, so let's locate our center. And we'll just sketch in a quick center line. Center lines are typically long, short, long, short. So that's what I used here. And the reason we did that is because this guy is a 1 inch block that is centered. So we've got an edge 1/2 inch from each side of the center. And then this little cutout here is going to create edges that look like this and like this. So now we can go ahead and darken in some stuff. We know we've got a nice solid edge to there and to here. Now be careful and don't go all the way down yet, because we've got these diagonal edges down here. We can locate this break point, and that is going to be 1 3/4 inches from the end here. So there's 1, there's 1 3/4, and then we see that it's 1/4 inch in from the side. So if we connect those 2 points, we've got that diagonal line. And we can do the same thing up here. Get that diagonal line. There we go. And now what we also know is that this cutout is 1 inch, because it tells us that right here. So this edge looks like this. And like that. Okay, now we've got a half circle in here that whose center is 2 1/4 inches from the right edge. So we'll count that. There's 1. Sorry, 1, 2, 3. 1. Okay, 2 1/4 inches on my scale is 9 blocks. So right here is the center of my circle. It's got a diameter of 1, which means a radius of 1/2. So I'm just putting in some reference points for myself so I can sketch in a half decent circle. And draw in those edges. Okay, and that is my plan view. Now it might help you to put in some reference dimensions so that you don't have to keep going back to this view as you create your AutoCAD. So for example, you could put in the 1.75 here and the 0.25 here. I'm going to leave that to you to decide. We always will have this sketch available to us. Alright, now I want to show you a trick that we use once we've got this point and this. I want to show you a trick that we use to create the side view, and this is called the miter line technique. It's not really a trick, it's really a technique. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this bottom edge here and we're going to extend it out across my paper. Then I'm going to take this left edge of my side view and I'm going to extend it up. And now what I want to do is I'm going to draw in a 45-degree construction line. And I'm doing this pretty lightly because if I were going to, because it's not actually part of the drawing, if I were going to ever save or copy this, I don't want it to, I want to be able to erase it without too much trouble. The other thing I should do is I should clean up this top view, take away kind of my rectangle, my viewing pane edges that I don't need anymore. Unless you're going to use them for dimensional indications like I did down here. And then they become dimension lines. Okay, so now what we're going to do is some of these side edges can be found by projecting from the other views. So for example, we know that this edge here, this top edge on the front view is going to create an edge that goes straight across. Okay, now looking at our object, so the other thing we know is we know that this corner here is going to create an edge on the bottom part of my object. So this guy, we're going to go ahead and darken this in because it is a rectangular base looking from the front. But now if I take this corner right here and I project it over to this miter line, then I can project it straight down. And we know we have an edge right there, 1/4 inch in, and a corresponding one on the other side. This thing's symmetrical. Now, this little cutout here that I've dashed in so that I can see it, you might not be able to see that on your screen, but that's going to create what we call a hidden edge. Now a hidden edge is an edge that would exist if I were to draw this object from the opposite view. So if I were to be drawing from the back here, I'd see an edge here. But I don't see that edge on the front, but I need to note that it exists. So to locate it, I'm going to, again, project from this corner forward. And hidden lines are dashed lines, evenly dashed lines on our orthographic projections. I'm going to put in its counterpart. Okay, and the other edge I need to get in is this guy here, this inside cut. And it, again, only appears on the lower part. So there and there. And so what you should be seeing now is this center line, again, is projected. So we'll put in our center line indication with a long, short, long, short. Okay, we've got a top here. Now you may notice I have not yet put my edges in, and that's because, if you remember, we've got this line, this indication of this 30-degree slant that we haven't handled yet. Now, you want to do this exactly if you're not just creating a sketch. But for a sketch, 30 degrees is approximately over 3 and down 1. So I'm just going to estimate this 30 degrees by counting over 3 and down 1. And then I'm going to connect those lines. And I'm drawing a little lightly here because I'm going to erase some of this. 1, 2, 3, and 1. 1, 2, 3, and 1. Okay, now that gives me that slanted edge. So what I have now is actually my completed top profile, or excuse me, side profile. Let's erase the stuff that needs to go away. So that needs to go away, and this needs to go away. Erasure issues there, but I'll fix them because this is just a sketch, so it's okay. There we go. And remember that this angle is 30 degrees. Okay. That is almost done. What we need to do now is take this edge. And remember, we didn't know the height of this cutout. Well, if we take this edge, we can project it over. And again, this is a sketch, so I'm not messing with straight edges or anything like that. I'm just eyeballing it. And now this guy here. All right. There we go. That is our 3-angle view, orthographic projection of this object. In the next video, we will do this in AutoCAD, and you'll see that AutoCAD makes some of this quite a bit easier. I'll see you again soon.